Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain, mindfulness. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about an article that appeared in April of this year. The article asks, how often have presidents defy court orders? Because apparently our current president has defied and has broken another law. And I was interested to learn, and you should as well know whether this has gone on before, or is the current president an anomaly? And it's the first time that a U.S. president has ever done this. The story is written by Richard Milner, and it was published, April 20th, 2025. So you can find it at grunge.com, and I will provide you with the link at the end of the show. In 2025, he goes on to say that the United States deported a 29-year-old Kilmar Abrego, Abrego Garcia, to his home country of El Salvador. And it left questions regarding the power dynamic between the United States executive and judicial branches. He entered the U.S. illegally in 2012 and freely admitted to doing so per a Prince George's County Police Department report. He was deported in March 2025. The district judge, Paula Xis, Xinis, ordered him returned to the U.S., and the current administration ignored her. Now, his attorneys are pushing for the administrations to be held in contempt of court. And the Maryland Senator, Chris Van Hollen, even paid him a visit. The situation is just an example of the most recent instance of conflict between various U.S. government branches. But while they regularly test their limits against each other, and have done so, the founding fathers of this country, about 250 years ago, outright defiance of court orders have been rare. President Richard Nixon in 1974, for instance, resisted releasing incriminated tapes during the Watergate scandal, citing executive privilege, but he eventually complied. One of the many questionable things about his presidencies. Back at the start of the U.S. Civil War in 1861, Abraham Lincoln imprisoned alleged saboteurs without any due process, but neither of these instances nor others involved refuting direct court orders. Besides Mr. Garcia's case, there's only been 2 instances of a U.S. president defying court orders. That means that on average, this only happens once 124 years. Good to know. However, the first incident involved and came in early in American history when Thomas Jefferson ignored a court ruling regarding the Embargo Act of 1807. The next time came in 1832 when Andrew Jackson ignored an order regarding the removal of Cherokee tribespeople from Georgia. A mere 31 years after the United States became its own country in 1776, President Thomas Jefferson, who played a key role in the American Revolution, made a bold, if wrong-headed move during the Napoleonic Wars, 1801 to 1815. British ships took to seizing American merchant vessels that had nothing to do with the conflict. Maybe it was out of retaliation for French assistance during the recent revolution in the States. Maybe it was out of fear of the U.S. secretly helping France, or maybe it was for some other reason entirely. Anyway, Jefferson pushed Congress to draft the Embargo Act of 1807. The legislation completely banned all U.S. exports to all nations across the world. Full stop, no exceptions. The act also restricted imports from Britain, And while it might seem clear this decision couldn't do much more harm to the American economy and its people, Jefferson considered it a kind of punishment for Britain. So valuable were American goods. Naturally, perishable goods in pre-refrigeration rotted, and sailors across the entire eastern seaboard had nothing to do. Details. But interesting, none of these happenings involved defying court orders. That came later when the Supreme Court appointed William Johnson ruled that Jefferson had exceeded his presidential authority in pushing for the act. Jefferson ignored the ruling and had the Attorney General draft a rebuttal and pass it to the press. He also ordered custom officials to stand by the embargo. Johnson rebutted as well, but to no effect. The Embargo Act lasted until Jefferson left office in 1809. Andrew Jackson defied court orders by forcibly moving the Cherokee people. The second instance of a U.S. commander-in-chief defying court orders came shortly after Thomas Jefferson, 1807, kerfuffle, but it dates back to 1791. Back then, the U.S. signed its Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the Cherokee Nation, an attempt to forge permanent peace and friendship, as Law Yale School quoted. Basically, the treaty promised to respect Cherokee sovereignty over its lands, even those within the United States borders, and it dubbed case-by-case treaties the supreme law of the land. Come the 1820s, though, and Georgia state government set out to consume Cherokee territory. In 1827, the Cherokee drafted their own constitution, claiming self-sovereignty over their land, and the Georgia legislature responded by annexing it, which means they attached their land. In 1830, Congress passed the Indian Treaties and the Removal Act that offered to swap eastern native land for lands further west. But in reality, it gave presidents like Andrew Jackson the capability to nullify earlier treaties like the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. In 1832, Worcester versus Georgia, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall wrote that Native people like the Cherokee constituted distinct, independent political communities retaining their original natural rights per the New Georgia Encyclopedia. Come 1838, Jackson ordered federal troops to go into Cherokee lands and forcibly remove them in direct opposition to the court ruling. This is what's called the infamous and horrific Trail of Tears, when over 4,000 Cherokees died during a forced march westward. So there you have it. And of course, our reigning president now committed a lot of disobedience in his first term of office as well. So what can we learn from this? We can learn that there are crooks in the White House, and they don't seem to learn their lesson well. This program is sponsored by Ruby.ai. Check it out, AIwithlillian.com. It takes you to AI, Ruby, and it gives you a full demonstration of Ruby, plus all the testimonials of people who are quite happy with their product. And then sign up for a subscription, because AI is here to stay. It is not going anywhere. Historical, lest we forget, is also sponsored by Conscious Research Solutions. Go check us out on PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com/research made simple blog. Read all the pain points that one can or will experience while trying to do thorough research. Sign up for a 15-minute free consultation and find out how we can help you or assist you and attaining that research. And if you want to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, please go over to passionateworldtalkradio.com/donation and help an all-women run operated internet talk radio station continue. We've been on the air now for 19 years, and we're looking forward to another 19. Thank you very much for listening, and have an awesome week.